Hello, everyone. Hi there. Thank you all for coming today. We've got, as you all know, we've got our annual general meeting. My name's Joseph Camilleri. I'm a member of the coordinating group for Conversation at the Crossroads, and I'm going to be chairing or facilitating the AGM, the formal part of proceedings, which will probably take the full first hour that we have planned. After which we'll have a bit of time for afternoon tea, and then we'll resume for the inaugural annual lecture, which will be presented by Joseph Camilleri, the convener of Conversation at the Crossroads, and then we have a few other activities planned. But given that it's already 2:03 by my clock, I'm very keen to make a start. We have plenty of people already here in the room and numerous people online, so we certainly have quorum, and I'd like to get underway. So let me welcome you all to our annual general meeting. Let me begin by an acknowledgement of country. So I would like to begin today by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, the traditional custodians on the land on which we gather today, at least here in person, and pay my respects to their elders past and present. I extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are here among us today. And wherever you're joining us from in Australia, and I believe there are people at some stage of proceedings today joining us from many states across Australia, in fact, some from beyond our shores, but for those of us in Australia, you are on Aboriginal land, the sovereignty of which was never ceded. I know we are taking minutes today, but I'm obliged to list a number of apologies that we've received. So if you'll indulge me, I would like to read them out. I've got Michael Mullerworth, Chris Colton, Heather Whedon, Peter Strang, Franz Smullen, Mark Dorman, Inan Barakat, Tetsugaku Ekukam, Judith Jensen, Julie Hart, Cheryl Greet, Mindy Uri, Di Bretherton, Julie Gassner, Rod Anderson, Sally Clark, Ernest Rates, Elizabeth Lapierre, I should say, Michael Hamilgreen, Cesar Villeneuve, and Maureen Todd-Hunter. So they are apologies for today. So you may not know, but we have a pretty full AGM. So the first thing, substantive item on the agenda is the discussion of membership. So I understand that a number of people are already joined up as members, and this is the first time, it's just been introduced recently, that we will and do have a formal membership. So I'd like to make a couple of brief remarks about that. Not everyone attending the meeting, either in person or online, will have become a member, and that's fine. You're certainly entitled to have your say, but it is the case that nominations when we come to the election of the committee and the office bearers, nominations and voting is restricted to members. So some of you may not know how to become a member. Well, it is an online system. We have it on Patreon. We have a link for those of you online, even those of you who are here who maybe have access, but we can help you with that later if you would like to become a member. I think Susan might drop that link into the chat right now. It is a nominal fee of $2 a month, which comes to $24 a year. Now, we understand that some people perhaps don't like providing credit card details online, which the system does require. We can accommodate that. If you would like, you can contact us. Details are, of course, on our website, and you can make a more secure bank transfer if you prefer. So that's for people who would like to join as members, and we certainly encourage as many of you who are not already members to become members. For those of you experiencing financial hardship, please contact us. We do have the capacity to reduce or even waive in certain circumstances the nominal fee. But I reiterate, and we will operate largely on a trust basis for the purposes of the meeting here, that only members, people who are already members, can nominate and be nominated and vote on the adoption of resolutions and the election of the committee. So just to reiterate that. Okay, so having happy to answer questions on membership, but perhaps leave that to the afternoon tea because we have plenty to get through. I'd like to invite our secretary, Susan Lendell, to present an annual report, which is a review of all the many and various activities we've undertaken over the last 12 months. Thanks, Susan.
Okay. So I might move on to the first slide, which is our, there are quite a few events that we held over the last 12 months. The Lucky Country is the Lucky Country running out of luck. So we ran this event on Sunday, 16th of October with guest speakers, David Trobe, who's a senior lecturer at Sydney University. And Professor Camilleri presented the event, and it examined how we're faring on the domestic front using 3 litmus tests: inequality, Indigenous voice and climate change. And what do they tell us about the state of the nation and our institutions?
Sorry, can you just pop the mic in front?
Yeah, my mistake. My apologies.
I can hold it if you like.
I'm not sure if that one's...
Hello. Yeah, thanks. Hello, that must be better. Sorry about that. Do you want me to speak again? Say that again? Yeah, sure. So just briefly, over the last 12 months, this is the first of those. Sunday, 16th of October is the Lucky Country running out of luck. And that was hosted by Professor Joseph Camilleri, and we had guests speaking. Next one. Then we ran Big Ideas in the Pub event. We ran a few of these. The first one was on redesigning democracy, and it was held, Christian Camilleri was the host of that event. It had around 40 people, and we held it at the Provincial Hotel. And then we held an event on voice, treaty and truth-telling. This was the first of several events that we held on voice. We held this at the City of Melbourne Bowls Club on Wednesday, the 22nd of March, and we were joined by a couple of great speakers, Marcus Stewart and also Jara Goreng. And then on the 2nd of May, in the evening, we held another event at University College here, and that was on Australia Adrift in the turbulent seas of US and China rivalry, hosted by Professor Camilleri. And we had some other speakers there as well, Dr. Scott Birchall being one of them. Now, second of the Big Ideas in the Pub events was on the Indigenous voice to Parliament. As I said, we held a few of these. This was on the 25th of May, and we held it also at the Provincial Hotel. And we had a couple of speakers there too. This was a really great event, which we held here again at the this premises at University College. It was on mental health and wellbeing in uncertain times. And we had Professor Patrick McGorry come and speak to us on the 25th of July. Then we had another Big Ideas in the Pub event, which we then held at the Clyde Hotel on the 22nd of August, and that was on truth and propaganda. And then we had a really great event, which was our first live event in Sydney, amazingly big. It was held at Sydney University in the Great Hall. We had speakers including the Honourable Bob Carr, who was the ex-Foreign Minister for Australia and also the longest-serving Premier of New South Wales. And we also had some great speakers, a lawyer who's a Palestinian, Rawan Araf, and also another foreign correspondent who's an investigative journalist, Sophie McNeil. She's worked with Human Rights Watch, and we talked about the Palestinian catastrophe. And this was pre any violence outbreak. It was quite a well attended event, both online and in person.
About 200.
Yeah, over 200 people. Then we held another format of events, which was a picnic. It was politics in the park, and we talked about the future of artificial intelligence. This was held on the 30th of September. And we had around 25 people. It's a smaller event, but it was really great to see lots of students and lots of young people attend that event. So that's, I'll move on now to communications. So we have a website, and we've just updated that website this year. Thank you, Ben, for doing the lion's share of that work. And we've also got a few different social media outlets that we use. We use LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. And we have followers from at least 20 countries. We've got over 300 on LinkedIn. We've got a Facebook group and an organisation page. They've got followers on both, above over 500 on our Facebook group, and also around 100 followers on Twitter. We have a podcast that's really been done with help from one of our committee members, as well as our students, who he's a teacher, and so he's led them in developing this podcast series. We had a talk which was on the voice. Again, this was something that was really important for us as a group, and it was really great to have speakers for that. 3 different speakers that were interviewed on that podcast. And then we also had videos which we published. We've been publishing videos on YouTube, and now we've moved over several of them, all of them now, to our website, so that they're now all being uploaded. If you ever want to view them, they're available. Media and interviews. So there are a couple of interviews that were asked of our organisation, and Professor Camilleri had been interviewed for these. One, a call for a flourishing of conversations, and the other was conversations at the Crossroads, in conversation with Joseph Camilleri on Eureka Street. And as I was saying, we also have a membership which just started this year, just only a few weeks ago, and that membership is using a tool called Patreon. And we now have, I might refer to Emily to speak later about Patreon in a bit more depth. It's a very low cost, but it's a way that it enables members to connect on this platform, and as well as providing financial support for our organisation. And just a little bit about our coordinating group. So the convener is Professor Camilleri. I'm the secretary. We have a treasurer, Rana Ibrahimi, and we meet monthly as a coordinating group. There's also several other people on that coordinating group, around 12. Including Casey Bowie and Yana Kantalup and Yelena Kovacevic, who's from Western Australia, and Ben Freeman here, and Emily Theobald, who's with us today as well, and Rashad Zidane and Eshan Hawaria and John Ball. And we've had some former members as well who have been really working hard with us, Eddie Kowalski, thank you, and Lee Money. That's all.
Yeah.
That's it.
So there's no requirement to have a formal adoption of that report. So I won't put that, but we do invite any, sorry, tend to forget these things. So we do invite any questions or comments. So thanks very much, Susan. It makes me feel like we have been active and doing plenty. Does anybody want to make any comments or questions? If not, I will quickly, seamlessly move. Thanks very much, Susan. That was excellent. Obviously, more information, as Susan said, can be found on about all those events on our website, including, in many cases, full recordings of the events themselves. I'm on to what is on my list, item 6 of the agenda. And I can see Rana in the background. Rana is our treasurer. Rana, can I invite you up and to give a financial report? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Just have to turn it on. Yeah. That's good.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Lovely to see you here, and thank you so much for joining us today. So as you may know, Conversation at the Crossroads is a non-for-profit organization, and we are all volunteers. So we are not talking about income and revenue, but most of our funding is an expenditure for what we are doing, and it is a help for us to spend it on what is needed for. So we started our funding with a fundraiser in 2021, and I kept all the 3 years intentionally to show that it's a quite healthy balance. And we had a good income, a good coming funding from people who supported us. We have two main expenditures through the year: our website and IT and social media, what we are doing online, and also our events. That is expenditure for catering, venue, and speakers. But we also have an income through the last 2 years, especially through the events themselves. Some of our events are paid, so they have an income. And by the end of June this year, we had total assets of $11,131.41. What we have done, I don't know if you can see that, through the year for the events, the few events that Susan explained, except one event, they all had a surplus, not a deficit, but one event that we had in November last year had a deficit of 807, which actually came back to the account through the other events. And one of the largest amount which came to our account was this May, which is around $1,000. We are expecting that with the Patreon, we are going to have an addition to this funding, which is going to be spent on the continued payments, something like the insurance, which is one of the largest amounts that we are spending. I'm happy to answer any questions. And the last 3 years, I was holding the account and the expenses, but it's a pleasure for me to do a little bit contribution to the group. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Rana. Does anybody have any questions for Rana or anyone else in the group? We seem to be in a pretty healthy situation.
Yes.
With a small membership in income to come.
Yep.
So we've been.
Our expenses are not more than what we need through the year. But I hope that we will increase the work, and with the increase, we need to spend more as well.
Clearly, we can be more ambitious if we have a little more money to play with, of course. I'll just let people sit with that. And I'm not looking online, by the way. So if there are hands going up online, please alert me to that. There is a formal procedure that we are obligated to go through here, and that is the adoption of the Treasurer's report for purposes of incorporation. I am also, I would like to do this part of the AGM formally. So if someone would like to move that we adopt the Treasurer's report, yes? Yes? Can you just say your name?
Anne Smith, S-H-M-I-D.
Yeah, Anne Smith. So it has moved. Do I have a seconder? Yes, Emily seconds it. can I put that now to the vote for the adoption of the Treasurer's report? If I observe a majority, I'll regard it as passed. So could I see a show of hands? Okay. How's it looking online? I'll just wait for that. I'm sorry, it was a bit cumbersome, but you just have to bear with us.
Yes, which we're getting.
Yeah. Let me see. Are there any no's? Just for fairness, does anybody not want to adopt the Treasurer's report? We have to do things formally, right? So I have to do this a little slower than I would because there's no. So we can regard the Treasurer's report as adopted. Thanks very much, Rana. Excellent. And we'll thank Rana properly in a few minutes for all the hard work that she's done. We now move on to item 7, the adoption of the Constitution. So most of you who are here in person at the University College will find a couple of copies of a draft constitution, which Professor Camilleri, Joe has drafted. A little bit of a change to the model that we are by default up until now operating under for the purposes of incorporation. We've also, I think Susan made available an online copy. Susan will now put a link. I know that won't give all of you a great much time to peruse it, but I will give you a few minutes. I think that's only fair. Joe, I don't want to put you on the spot, but is there anything you would like to flag about the draft constitution that people ought to know?
Briefly.
If you wouldn't mind coming up and turning on.
Can I be heard?
But not online. I'm sorry. It's all a bit it's all a bit slow.
Yes. All right. A couple of things only. This is based in part on the rules that we have been observing as part of the rules of incorporation, and partly on our practice, with a few very minor changes. So really, this is put forward for adoption. See how we travel over the coming year, and open to suggestions for improvement this time next year. So it's presented to you in that spirit. I don't think there's anything controversial. There is a membership structure, and the coordinating committee is assigned the role of setting the fee for membership, but with flexibility, as we've already heard. The day-to-day management of conversation at the Crossroads is the task of the coordinating group, as it was, and propose that we call it the coordinating committee, which is perhaps a more familiar term. And provision for office bearers, more or less as we've had them: convener, deputy convener, secretary, and treasurer. And then up to 12 others, we don't have to get to 12, who will be part of the coordinating group. So that, in a nutshell, is what is suggested, and some indication of how changes to the Constitution might be made in years to come. So that's where things stand. Fairly simple and straightforward. Simple language deliberately chosen to make the Constitution accessible to everyone. And with the power of the annual general meeting to make decisions on big issues, and special general meetings to be called if some major issue arises in between AGMs. That's it.
I could just, because we'll take, if there happen to be any proposed amendments, I'll just let you stand there. Does anybody have any questions about the Constitution as drafted and as circulated? Yes, we do have one.
Hello. Just two. The basis for the age being 16 and not necessarily 14 and 9 months when the kids in Australia have to pay income tax. I'll be able to just give though. And about citizenship, do the members have to be Australian citizens, or can they have not come out?
No, because as of now,
Can you summarize that?
Repeat the question.
I'm sorry, the question was about the age. I think it must say 16, and the suggestion was 14.
9 months.
14 and 9 months. That was one. And the other one was to do with whether it needs to be an Australian citizen. And the answer to that second question is very clear, no, because Conversation at the Crossroads has a vision of operating internationally, not just in Australia. And as of now, well over a quarter of our mailing list, our database, is outside of Australia. Okay, so out of roughly 5,500 people on the mailing list, I'd say about 25 to 30% are non-Australian. In at least 20 countries, yes. Of course, when you get an Australian-focused discussion and an in-person event, then of course Australia dominates. But when we have events of an international flavour online, then it becomes much more a reflection of the wider group that we are reaching out to. I mean, I don't have any strong personally views about 16 versus 14 and 9 months. And if someone wanted to move that amendment and it met with support of the meeting, that would be fine with me personally, but I would leave it to whatever people prefer. Did you want to move an amendment to that effect?
I just want to know the scope. If you don't have many 16-year-olds, it would seem move, like maybe in the future, but I just feel that if you pay income tax and you're working at 14 and 9 months, then maybe you can include it in all these, not just for future. Not I don't think it's urgent. Yeah.
Perhaps we can revisit this at the next AGM. I mean, I'm happy to take it as an amendment, but we don't have many technologies at the moment, but we very much are looking to get young people involved.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good point to raise. But if you don't, yes, we did. Sorry, behind you, Emily. Yes.
Sorry, Christian, I don't want to hold things up.
Sure.
My point, just for online.
You can.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
First, congratulations on what I was thinking. It's correct, and particularly the emphasis on being a large majority and what a 2/3 majority on so many parts of the decision making. That's fantastic. Then my question is the intention to incorporate under a Victorian law or a national law as a association, corporate association, or a company by guarantee or something like that. I think so. Will this constitution getting adequate for that?
The short answer is we are already. I'll speak up as the microphone comes back. We are already incorporated, but it's a fairly stock standard set of model rules of incorporation. It's the template that's provided. It's under Victorian state legislation. This would certainly keep us incorporated. It would suffice for all that we need. This AGM is part of the requirement, so that's why I'm operating in a fairly formal manner, a manner we're not always used to operating in Conversation at the Crossroads. So all those things are ticked off. We did get some advice. This is the best way to go for legal requirements, but also we are investigating the possibility of becoming listed as a charitable organisation, and this would also assist in that regard, though we haven't gone down that path yet. So I think I've answered the questions. Yeah.
Just commenting on the earlier suggestion about the age of membership and also conscious of Richard's efforts in the podcast and in the school, I think I would be quite favourable in 14, 9 months if we needed to make it an age commentary, just conscious that we are engaging with the school students and they are interacting with us on that level.
Do you want to move that amendment then, Emily?
Just conscious that we are engaging with that.
So I'll just record that Emily's moved, that a suggestion was made from the floor, and Emily's moved that we make the minimum age 14 years and 9 months.
Second that.
Yes. I can't see behind the poll. I'm so sorry. The room is sort of, yeah.
Just to comment on the age, if you go under 18 or 16, then you have to make there's some more paperwork that you need to make organization charts and organizations for it. And it's basically the definition of paperwork.
But I take this under advisement that we perhaps investigate the additional administrative. Yes, I'm getting some nods. Yeah. Rashad, I think.
I was just going to say that with the teenagers that I work with in my high school, most of them are already 16 years old. They're around the numbers, so the 16 would be perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But I've only had one student under who was 14 years old.
Right.
Yeah.
Emily, as the mover, do you still want me to put it to the vote?
I think under advice is probably good.
Yeah. So we have actually a committee meeting next week. Not all of us will be on it because we're spilling the committee today, but let's put it as an item for that meeting that we will consider that. Are people happy with that suggestion? Because I'm not putting the motion to the vote now. Yeah, I'm getting nods in the room. Is there any dissent online, Susan? Expression, I'll give it a moment. I don't want to. Okay. In that case, I would like to then invite someone to move that the Constitution be adopted as is, as circulated. Do I? Okay, Joe has moved that. He's put it forward. Do I have a seconder? Claire, you got in momentarily first. Could I now put that to the vote? A show of hands to adopt the Constitution? Yeah. Okay, this is not overwhelming. Okay. Yes, people aren't members. You're quite right. Okay. Hopefully there was a show of hands online too. Just for fairness, is there anyone who would like to vote to not adopt the Constitution as circulated? I'm standing to see. I don't see any hands in the room, and I don't want to preempt, but I suspect, Susan, there's no hands. This is for the no. Okay. But I regard that as yes. And
it's not so much that against people. I think we're always at an aging person. We always seem to be concerned about the lack of young people us.
Yeah.
And it would seem to be depends on the strategic intent of us, how we are going to approach that. And
we'll have an
many decades ago, I used to work with schools on poverty and social justice issues. And I believe that they are the future, if you want to say, citizens, because one of the things that has emerged is the lack of knowledge of what it to be a citizen.
We're going to have plenty of opportunity to address these questions.
Yeah, because what I'm saying is that I'm quite happy for the Constitution to go through, but I think to take it seriously, what we mean by having young people. Look around here, there are really few young people. Me included, I'm an aging man. I'm aging next year. So I quickly appeal to us keeping the dream on.
Okay. But okay, thank you for the comment. Given the show of hands, I'm going to declare that motion passed. So we've adopted the Constitution. Thank you very much for that. Now we get to probably the trickiest item of business, just because there are a number of people involved. As I flagged moments ago, we have an outgoing committee of which I'm a member. This is not self-aggrandizement on my part, but I would like to issue a special word of thanks to some people who have been on the committee for one, if not several years, and some for a number of months as well, who are not going to stand again or have indicated they're not going to nominate or be nominated. So one of those is Ben. So thank you very much, Ben. Yana Cantaloupe, Rana Ibrahimi, who you heard give the Treasurer's report, Eddie Kowalski, who was with us for quite a bit of time, and Lee Monick, who in the early part of this last 12-month year also did a lot of work with us. So I'd like to, a special word of thanks to all of those people. In addition, there are a number of people here and some not here who are current members of the committee, but who have indicated a willingness to go on and who've been nominated to again stand. So Casey Bowie, Susan Lendell, Emily, Theobald, Yelena Kovic, Rashad Sidin, Eshan Arya, John Ball, and Joseph Camilleri. So thanks for all the hard work you've been doing. So what I propose to do is I have a number of nominations. So I'm going to deal with the office-bearing positions first. So there are 4. So this is how I propose to proceed. There is the position of convener, a deputy convener. I'm sorry, I don't have my mic, but hopefully you can hear me. A treasurer and a secretary. Thank you very much. Joe is the incumbent convener, as you probably all know, and he's indicated a willingness to continue on. So he has been in effect nominated already. We were happy to take nominations ahead of the meeting. Emily has also been approached to be deputy convener, and she's agreed with some hesitations, but she's very dutifully agreed to take on that role. Susan, who's currently secretary, who you heard from just a few minutes ago, has also agreed to stand again, and she's been nominated to continue on as secretary. Rana has, after many years giving us really good service as treasurer, decided she needs to step down. So we have one office vacant. Well, we at least don't have a nomination for it. No one's been voted in or out yet. Do I have any nominations? So what I'd like to do is treat these en bloc. And of course, if anybody else would like to nominate someone for any of these positions, that is also to be taken. But if the positions are, yeah, KC?
Just point, Rana in this recently on the Slack,
yeah,
has mentioned that she's happy to go on.
Oh, I didn't want to. I had an email, Rana. So did I misread your email?
Just on the condition that nobody knows.
Okay.
So I would
Yeah. This was not a power play on Ennis. I would be delighted to have Rana continue, but she's a very busy person. Yeah. So just to be clear about what's being proposed, I'm announcing these nominees, and I'm looking for another nominee for treasurer, because Rana would, I think prefer to stand down if she possibly could. And then if there is no opposition, I propose to vote en bloc for the 4 positions rather than each individually. But if there's a contestation in any one position, we'd have to treat that separately, right? And then once we've dealt with this, hopefully it's doesn't take too long, there are 12 more, a maximum of 12 further committee positions for which I have a number of nominations, and we'll treat them separately after the office-bearing positions, what I'm calling the office-bearing positions. So, yes.
Sorry, question.
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
Sorry, I should. No, I'm still.
Assuming from what you said that those are the only nominations, for those positions?
Say that again.
The nominations that you mentioned are the ones.
I'm not aware of any others. Yeah.
And then a question, you listed people who were on the committee and asking about people who were on the committee, very strict willingness to come back.
Yep.
I didn't hear your name.
I will nominate to sit on the committee, but I'm not nominating for an office for a position. Yeah. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Jacqueline.
Oh, that's wonderful. We have a nomination. Rana, are you happy with that? Rana has, I think I got this right, Rana. You promised to do a little handover with whoever would stand in, right? Fantastic. Do I have any other nominations for any of the 4 positions I mentioned? Convener, Deputy Convener, Treasurer and Secretary. If not, I don't want to be too hasty. If not, could I propose, do I have to have a motion? No, there's nominations. All I need to do is have someone move that, no, we just go to the vote, don't we, Joe? I should know this. We've had all those nominations. I don't think we need a motion. What we need is a vote. So I propose, as I suggested, to vote on block. So if people, so let me put it to the vote now. If you are happy for all those positions to be filled by those, I think we can actually go without the vote because they're unopposed. So yes, so forgive me, I'm getting a little confused. Let's take them as the new office bearers. So thanks very much. I'm sorry, a little bit confused with my formal meeting procedure here. Now, on to the next. So now I'm going to deal with the positions remaining on the committee. I'm sorry for standing and sitting. I'll sit. Yeah. We're trying to deal with online as well, and I'm a Camilleri, so I tend to wander. Yep. Nominations received to date for the other positions on the committee. Yes, myself, Christian Camilleri, KC Bowie, Yelena, Rashad, Eshan, and John Ball are existing members of the committee who have agreed to continue on. In addition, I have some new nominees. Elaine Young. Thank you, Elaine. That's wonderful. Sherry Rose Watts. I know she was running a little late. Some unavoidably detained, but she's nominated. Claire Woods over here. Alex Barilaro, I think Emily. Rashad, was there someone you hoped to nominate?
I want to nominate David Percy.
Hi. Just for the formal stuff, Rashad, it's hard for me to hear the name. Yeah. Just so we record it. Yeah.
So it's Jennifer Percy.
Jennifer Percy, right.
So I want to nominate Percy.
Yeah. Are there any? Thank you very much. Now, Sherry Rose is not present, and neither is Alex present?
On Zoom.
On Zoom. Fantastic. So present. What with?
Christian, do we have to verbally accept the nomination? We have to accept it prior. I'm going to hold yes. No.
We have to accept the nomination. Yeah. We haven't received prior, so we have to accept the nomination. Well, I'm happy to put that to everyone. We accept the nomination. Is everybody happy that we accept all those nominations? At the moment, so I'll give you the total number. Christian, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 of the possible 12 vacancies we had. I was getting to that, but I just had to accept. No, very good to hold me to account. There are 11 of a possible 12 spaces as mandated by the Constitution of nominees. Yeah, Emily.
Just question, I think we double, maybe double counted there. Oh, no. No.
I don't think I have, but I'll read them very carefully. Yeah. So someone count as I read names. I currently have on the table Christian, KC, Yelena, Rashad, Eshan, John, Elaine Young, Sherry Rose, who's in absentia, and I'll deal with that in a moment, Claire Woods, Alex Barilaro, and Alex. Jennifer Bursey.
11.
That's 11. Do I have any other nominations?
Did I hear John Moore?
Yes, I read John's name.
Okay.
No, that's fine. We need to get this right. Yeah.
Because is the requirement of the committee of the
Yes.
I'm not sure that it's mentioned in the Constitution.
Right.
It
is. Yeah. That's okay.
That.
That's okay. No, and we can have 11. We don't have to have the 12. It's just that we can have up to 12. Yes. Yes.
In the conversation about age group, are you able to nominate outside of the age process? Final vacancy is open to the community, or is it going to come back to?
No, it's got to come back to an AGM or a special general meeting. Now, Sherry Rose is not here, but she's a young person, I think, by anybody's lights, not just by our relative to many of us. Yes.
I was going to ask the people in the room that I think is 26, and Yelena is a university student.
Yeah, so we actually have at least four to five people in their 20s, so far as I can tell. I'll just sit with that for one moment longer. If there are no further nominations, I propose that we accept all those nominees onto the committee. Are people happy with that? Yes? Yes, you were just indicating you were happy with that, which is the right way to go. Could I just have a show of hands, just so I can tick this off? All right, I think we can regard that. We have now with Sherry Rose, she's indicated she's happy. She'll be here, so we can come back to that in the meeting itself. But perhaps a little round of applause. Well done. We have a new committee. I have only one. This is good. We're making reasonable time. We only have one substantive item left on the agenda. So thanks very much for your patience here. Emily, this is I'm going to invite you up to give a brief report on the survey that many of you would have filled in. So the item on the agenda at the moment is C@C's Conversation at the Crossroads, Future Plans and Priorities. And we did take the trouble of surveying people on a range of issues, but importantly, what you would like to see us do, the directions. So I'll hand over to Emily.
Emily can turn a microphone. There we go. Thanks for
So those of you in our mailing list would have received my nagging to fill in this survey. If you haven't done so, I'll have some links and availability to do that today. But in this survey, we gathered some insights from those of you in the community who filled it out for us. Thank you. To understand your most pressing concerns, priorities, and areas of interest. And the survey reflects a really diverse array of perspectives, highlighting the multifaceted challenges that we're facing as a collective. So my gratitude to everybody who took the time to fill this in. And the following is a summary of those findings to date. Could you go to slide 3, Ben? Thank you. As it stands, we have 50 submissions. The first slide here reflects responses to the question: in your conversations, how easy do you find it to cover the different aspects of life, from the personal to the local, the national, and the global? And I wanted to lead with this because I think this is the core of everything that we're doing at Conversation at the Crossroads. The majority of respondents found it easy or very easy to navigate from personal to global topics. It's important to note that a significant number also were neutral. Next slide, Ben. This particular question is going to inform a lot of our priorities for the next 12 to 18 months. The question we put forward was, what issues are of most interest or concern to you? Now, the table is very difficult to read, so excuse that, but that is the compilation of issues that were put forward and received responses. The issue of primary concern being climate change, with 35 mentions out of 50 as this being the most pressing concern. This was followed by foreign and defence policies with 25 mentions, and human rights and civil liberties with 20 mentions. Next, Ben. We then posed the question, if any, what barriers do you face in having meaningful conversations? Now, to this, there was a very wide-ranging collection of responses that I spent some time with a spreadsheet trying to put together for you all. But they included resistance from those with entrenched beliefs, limitations due to health issues, concerns about emotional intensity during discussions. Many cited the influence of divisive mainstream media, a lack of critical thinking, and misinformation as hurdles. So this feedback is going to come forward in how we put together our events, some skills and workshop and planning moving forward. Next slide, Ben. I just wanted to briefly highlight some of the quotations that we received in this feedback, including a barrier being aggression, a lack of critical thinking, misinformation, a lack of respect, and those who find meaningful conversations all too hard. Next slide, Ben. Alongside requests for preferences for content, we also asked how respondents preferred to engage with our events and our activities. Again, there was a pretty split response to this. A range of preferences, some preferring in-person participation with 29.2%, others favoured online options with 31.3%. However, many respondents preferred a hybrid experience with 25%, and a much smaller number, 6.3%, mentioning a preference for recorded or self-paced activities. You can jump 2 slides in. We then put forward the level of interaction required within our events or preferred within our events. And with this, members had, again, diverse preferences regarding their desired level of interaction. A significant number, 41.7%, preferring highly interactive and collaborative sessions. The majority, 45.8%, preferring a Q&A session. Next slide, Ben, and one more. We then put forward the question if there was any suggestions regarding the format of our events and activities. We heard a little bit of already today, but there was requests for an emphasis on inclusive focuses, participants suggesting broadening the focus to engage a wider audience, not just outside of age demographics, but also beyond educated elites. Suggestions were made to select topics, speakers, and events to avoid creating echo chambers. There was a desire mentioned for effective moderation to allow well-moderated discussion within time limits and productive conversations. Geographical diversity, which is something we're actively working towards with our recent event in Sydney, but also a push for more rural and regional areas to be engaged. and also continued diversification of our international and national speakers. Next, Ben. One more slide after this. We had the question, do you have any comments or suggestions by way of initiatives that you would like Conversation at the Crossroads to include in its program? Now, we're going to come back to this question at the end of the event, but the main suggestions were to consider involving more young people in our conversations and events, to build upon our workshopping and lecture topics to facilitate networking as well as advocacy, collaboration with other groups, to provide lectures and workshops, encouraging, again, networking and advocacy, the implementation of a membership fee, which we have just recently implemented, and the incorporation of cultural and religious conversations led by qualified individuals. And the final slide, just because a lot of that was feedback orientated, I also wanted to highlight, conscious that a few of our committee members are stepping down, that we also received some really beautiful feedback and support, including many thanks to Joe personally, but as well as the coordinating group as a whole. Significant numbers of comments of don't change too much of what you're doing because it's helping. So that is so far the results of the survey, but we will have this open and remaining open for your ongoing feedback to continue to influence our planning.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much.
Let's say just a point of clarification.
Ready?
Thank you. Just a point of clarification. How many of the respondents, current members, and how many prospective members?
The vast majority, I put it forward for Joe. I couldn't tell you the top of my head, but I have a spreadsheet of those who are members who haven't yet filled in the survey who will be following up. But the majority.
Thank you.
And will you be putting the results on the website?
Yes.
Thanks.
Probably in the next, after our upcoming meeting on the 30th, when we can discuss it at the committee meeting, I'll make all of the response, not individual responses, but the compilation that on the website.
Thank you.
You've been painted with two mics.
I did.
Yeah. Joe, I wonder if you were going to share at this point, we're on the last item, we're looking forward to what we might do. Now, after the lecture, which Joe will present after afternoon tea, which is coming up in just a few minutes, we're going to have a chance to think through these issues with a bit more time, a little bit more time. But Joe, did you want to share the thoughts of the committee, or do you think that's already been well represented on what we might do?
I think that plus the survey gives you a good idea of where we're heading.
Yeah.
There's only one thing which hasn't come up, which I think we have discussed but haven't acted upon. Two things we have discussed. The need for skilling to enable people to be more confident and perhaps more effective in the way they handle conversations, anything from one-to-one to how they might handle a large conference or even a public meeting where conversation does go on. So we are intending to put on some skilling workshops in the period ahead, maybe one before the end of the year. We'll see how human resources are in terms of that. That's one thing that's definitely on the agenda, skilling workshops for all kinds of circumstances in which conversation does take place or people should take place. And the second thing is whether we can use literature, the arts, the performing arts, the visual arts, and other forms of communication which are not through the written word or the formal spoken word to assist in enabling effective, meaningful, deep, rich conversations to occur, including use of film or theatre, exhibitions, whatever it may be, and we have that at the back of our minds to do soon. as ways of bringing people together, not in formats that are quite different from this one. That's it.
Sorry, we've made your last formal task incredibly difficult, Ben, but it also, I think, underscores the big hole that not having Ben will leave, because he's responsible for the website and so many other things. So you have a special thanks from me, at least, Ben. We'll have to train someone up in your absence. But look, we will have a chance, Joe, as I understand, when we break up into conversation after the lecture, to get your immediate feedback on the directions you would like to see conversation at the Crossroads pursue. But we just thought we'd give you a sense in the AGM of the feedback we've received and some of the plans that we have going forward. Joe's already very good at keeping us fixed on the middle term and not just the immediate, what's immediately in front of us, our next event. So we thought we'd share that with you. Regarding funding, you've heard we're in a fairly healthy state. The membership that the formal membership with the small nominal membership fee will assist with that. Many of our events, as you've heard Rana say, are self-funding. We can always run a funding campaign, if you like. We've only ever had to run one major one. But I think that's probably enough from me. We're just at 3:04, and I'm keen not to stretch out the formal part of today's proceedings longer than it need be. So I'd like to bring the meeting to a close at this point, but so we're going to have afternoon tea, but with the understanding that we've only got about 15, at most 18 minutes for afternoon tea. If I keep saying morning, forgive me. Afternoon tea, and then we'll resume, and Emily will introduce Joe for the lecture, and then we'll have a couple of activities for all of us to engage in after that. Thanks very much. Okay.